A dessert doused in liquid nitrogen, it's breezing its way into Singapore's culinary scene. Known as dragon's breath, it creates a dramatic smoke effect which puffs out of the consumer's mouth and nose. It may sound like fun, but there are dangers. Melanie Ralph reports.
One of the busiest stalls at this food market, with a queue continuing to grow. Dragon's breath dessert provider Smokeout sees on average 100 customers a night.
One, mixed flavors? Okay.
People here taking ultimate selfies with smoke billowing out from each mouthful, creating a dramatic effect. Over the past year, several Dragon's Breath outlets have popped up in Singapore. It's not just a sweet treat for adults. This stall's youngest customer was 2 years old and the oldest more than 80. As a business, however, you have to sell a lot of desserts to cover the cost of the nitrogen, which is nearly $150 a canister.
Actually, our profit margin is not very high. One tank of liquid tank is quite expensive, and then we can only do about maybe 100 cups using one tank of liquid, which that means our margin is about maybe $1 or $2 per cup.
Singapore is playing catch-up in the Dragon's Breath market. The concept is already big in other countries in Southeast Asia.
There are a number of different flavours to choose from, but there's a certain knack to eating Dragon's Breath. You have to blow on it so you don't get frostbite.
Although a fun concept, Dragon's Breath has a more worrying side to it. After all, liquid nitrogen is not edible and can cause serious harm if consumed in its liquid form. Vendors like these must make sure all the liquid has evaporated before consumers taste it.
There's a huge danger to it, because it would mean that anyone who would consume it, if it's not completely evaporated, then bits of or the residue of the liquid nitrogen, if it's in contact with any of our skin or in contact with any of the warmer body, as we would say, it would freeze it. So it would cause an instant frostbite.
This Dragon's Breath stall doesn't have signs up with advice for people on how to eat the treat. Despite the potential downside, the novelty factor of Dragon's Breath is still drawing crowds. It's going to take a lot to knock the wind out of this trend here that's only just heating up in Singapore. Melanie Ralph, TRT World, Singapore.